Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is truly an improvement season for us too, because I think I can say I'm mostly out of the recovery phase of prep, and you're well deep within your improvement season right now, and both of us with kind of the goal of stepping on stage in 2027. But for those listening and not watching, it's because I'm with Mike Chalice and not Pascal this week, because obviously Pascal is the family man, the tattooed man, the man without the objective of stepping on stage anytime soon. So yeah, the improvement season, but he's improving in other elements of his life. I'm rambling. How's it going, Mike?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, I almost thought, it crossed my mind that, yeah, we're both looking to get our pro card. I was like, no, that's done. You've done it. I can't say that anymore. It's just me.
Literally right there, Mike. You don't need a reminder.
I know. I literally saw the pro and I was like, no, can't say that anymore. So you're the guiding light that I'm following.
Yeah, I'm now trying to climb what is going to be, well, I say play on hard mode, right? That's what I keep calling it. It seems appropriate to be calling it that. It's kind of wild. It's funny how many, I literally spoke to someone the other day, actually. He was a competitor, but enhanced, and he hasn't competed for a long time. And basically, he said as soon as he earned his pro card, he just stopped competing. He was just like, I was done. Like, that's all he cared about, was getting that pro card, and then he was done. And from the sounds of things, he didn't really enjoy the process of getting the pro card. Hence, I guess, stopping as soon as he got it. And he was like, so are you continuing now? Like, did you get a sponsor and they're going to pay you for all this stuff? Like, it makes it more worth it for you. Like, it's a lot to do, isn't it? And I'm just like, I mean, yeah, if I did or didn't get the pro card, it wouldn't have changed my plans for the off season. I keep doing the do because I love it. I don't know if I said it to him, but it comes back to that comment of, don't train to compete. I compete because I train. And like, I live this lifestyle. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some elements we wouldn't do to the levels that we do it if we didn't compete, but the vast majority of it we would still do despite the stage, right?
Definitely. And it also reminds me of, that's why you should never place your happiness on a future goal, because, you could be happy right now. And it's like, you might, if you say, right, I can only be happy when I win my pro card, I'm only going to be happy when I win my pro card. And it's like, well, you might get your pro card and it might be really anticlimactic, and you'll be like, oh, so you've just wasted X amount of time on something that wasn't even that much of a worth it thing. So that kind of came up for me when you said that. And it's interesting because when the patients that I see in the clinic, they have different hobbies and backgrounds, and I obviously see a lot of runners. And I had a patient yesterday where she was like, oh, I've run 3 marathons in the past. And I'm like, oh, okay, have you got another one? You're going to go for another one? And she was like, no. And I was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, I've done them now, had enough, that's it. And sometimes some people are like, it's like a tick box. It's like, I've run a marathon now. That was like a, thing on my bucket list that I've done. I'm going to do something else now.
I think that's okay. I think it's fine to have that. It's you don't have to have like we do, where we kind of want to continue competing and continue improving and kind of following along that competitive journey. Yeah, it means a lot to us. Obviously, it's like part and course our career as well. But I know for me, for a long time when I was younger, at least, I don't have it so much now, but a bucket list item was to do a marathon. It was just like, it just sounded cool, right? It's just something you do. And I think there are probably a lot of people listening, maybe personal trainers or coaches, who just have it kind of as like an itch they want to scratch of like stepping on stage and competing. And I think that's fair enough, especially if you do it and you're like, yeah, I did it. I got the experience, kind of wanted to know what it was all about, shaving, tanning, stepping on stage, being shredded. But I maybe they don't love it as much as what we do. And I think that's horses for courses, as they say, right? And that's all right. But yeah, I think it's, as you said, like for the guy I was talking to, I felt a bit sad because, yeah, he'd been grinding away for a long time, to the point of which it sounded like bodybuilding was not complementing his life. It was taking over, to the point of which he had to just step away from it. And we're lucky enough to work with a lot of first timers, which I feel super honored to do, because we get to like guide that first stage experience and try and make it as positive a thing as we can, because so many people get burnt that even the first time they compete, because I mean, it's an extreme sport, and yeah, you can easily go about it in a not very complimentary fashion.
Definitely. And it makes me feel very grateful for all of the research that's been done, all of the experience that's been gained from, past, years. We've got, great coaches, yourself, Eric Helms, like all of you guys, that, we now know that there's a better way. We don't have to resort to these archaic, extreme measures that are just not doable, or they're not sustainable, should I say. So it makes me feel very privileged to know that we're living in this time. Obviously, that doesn't get to the masses still. People still resort to those things, but we know that there's a sustainable way of doing it. And it makes me think, man, imagine if someone had that where, they start taking steroids or drugs, and then, all of a sudden it's like, nah, I'm not going to, it wasn't worth it for me or whatever. And it's like, oh, you've just put your health on the line, or you can't do something else because you've, resorted to this extreme measure. And it's like, oh, yeah, you just hope that that doesn't happen, although it probably does.
I imagine it happens a heck of a lot more than we even realize.
Oh, yeah.
I think, unfortunately, especially I think with social media now, because aesthetic in terms of how you look and everything like that has become so mainstream, and like you're getting, I don't know, Brazilian butt lifts being done, you're getting Botox is just normal, hair transplants are just normal. Like, I'm not saying they're wrong or anything like that, but I think in conjunction with that is being in amazing shape is like, hey, it's like an expectation people have upon you, and it's much harder to get into shape than a lot of other things. Like, you can go and buy like a nice outfit and you can look the part, right? But to actually have lots of muscle as a natural, it takes years and years and years of dedication, for most of us at least. So I think it's becoming way more common for people to just use it as like a, I don't know how to call it, like a, in the similar vein as going getting Botox. Like, a guy's just like, oh yeah, I'm just on a like steroid cycle, just willy-nilly, because yeah, people aren't aware of the downsides to these sort of things, which is scary. And the cool thing is though, and I don't know, somehow circle back, it does seem like natural bodybuilding is really thriving at the moment, at least from what I see. Like with, you probably saw it, classic physique coming into the WNBF, which is exciting. I'm excited to kind of see what the judging criteria and everything is going to be for that, how it differentiates itself from other classes. And then also with the, what's it called? The Galaxy, the WNBF Galaxy, which is, I think, in Malaysia or it's in Asia, somewhere. It's quite far away, but the prize money would, I actually don't know what it is, but I think it was, I've more so heard that it's high than I saw it. I saw the post, but I never really focus on prize money. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it'd be great to win it, but I'm not going over there to try and win that prize. Well, I guess I am, but not with that being a realistic goal. But that's pretty exciting. I know for those guys, a lot of them can't get visas and things to compete over at World, so it's like a bit of a world for that part of the world as such. But I know AJ Morris, as I spoke to him, he has his big show coming up this year, which is going to be big. And so it just seems like, hey, it is thriving. And I think that comes back to your point of people like the Eric Helms, the 3DMJs, who allowed for there being way more education of how to make this sustainable, but also give a lot of people who aren't maybe genetically elite a route to success. Because I think it's like you can get to stage despite your knowledge if you have very good genetics, but if you don't have very good genetics, you're not going to get to stage in any sort of good shape, because you're just going to be extremely hungry and without any muscle and all of this. So anyway, you probably have some thoughts on that ramble.
No, yeah, because my immediate thought, as you were saying just that, it's like it's great that in some respects you've got like the Babacars and people that draw eyes initially, but then I think you also need people like Eric Helms, yourself, who have big followings, but it hasn't been easy for them. So again, someone like yourself, not got Babacar genetics, Eric Helms not got Babacar genetics, but you've got the science and the knowledge behind it, and people can follow that. and even someone I thought of was like, Ramond, who actually, he's posting a lot of good information, and yet, he's got this amazing physique which so many people look up to, and that draws eyes. And I think the great thing is that it's almost like a domino effect. It's now building up so much positive momentum that more good information and knowledge is going to be spread. And it just, again, hopefully just builds its own momentum. And then eventually those sort of very old school extreme measures hopefully will start to fade away. And it's almost like, leeches being used for medicine kind of thing. It's like you look back and you wonder like, what? Did people even do that? Yeah. Yeah,
for sure. And actually, I guess this is a good segue, because I asked if people aren't following me on Instagram, shame on you, but many of you probably are. And shame on you if you aren't in my hyperbolic time chamber, which is really a small subset of my following who really want to get the inside scoop. I asked in there for questions for us for this late. I apologize to everyone in there, because I was kind of umming and ahhing whether or not I wanted to do it anyway, but maybe I'll do this more frequently where I get questions. So if you do want to ask questions, go into that group. Funny enough, only one of them that came through was for you, Mike. The rest of them were for Mike Israetel, because there was some confusion. I thought people would have got it from me saying this is for the improvement season, but hey, people want to ask Mike Israetel questions because there's a lot of heat surrounding him at the moment, for lack of a better word. But anyway, let's talk about you, Mike. This is from my client, B Immy, over on Instagram. She asked, How did you get into bodybuilding? I don't think you've ever talked about it on here, at least.
So I got into bodybuilding when I was 15, 16, and very much, as many of us are in school, lacking self-confidence, very self-conscious, very body aware. I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't the person who played football, played rugby. I'm a naturally uncoordinated person. And, but then I was really lucky in my secondary school or high school. They had a small little weights room. It was like very old school. And after school, my PE teacher would run a little after school club for an hour where he would just like supervise like people going in there and just lifting weights. Like he'd train himself. But then he was obviously there and, the kids come. And that really just gave me something to start with. And then I saw myself changing, and as you do, people kind of like comment going like, "Oh, Mike, you're kind of getting bigger or whatever." And I was like, "Oh," and I felt more confident and I felt better. And I then just that summer, I joined up to my local gym, and it honestly just cascaded from there. I remember going on holiday that year as well, and I saw like a Flex magazine with Ronnie Coleman, and I was like, "Mum, can we get it? Can we get it, please?" And it honestly, I then fell down the rabbit hole, and it's all cascaded from there. And even though I've dabbled, throughout the years, I've gone into powerlifting, I've even done like strongman and CrossFit and stuff. There's always been this underlying aesthetic for me about, training for that kind of aesthetic quality. So I've always come back to that. So that's basically how I got into things.
We have spoken about it before, because I remember the story of how you kind of initially got into it. It's fun. It's interesting. We actually have been training for the same amount of time, basically, because I got in it when I was almost 16. But a bit different. I know I first came across you on the it was like the forums. I can't remember what they were called. RP Plus, it was called. Yeah. At the time, there'll probably be listeners who remember RP Plus. That's where I first came across you. So who were your early influences? Did you come across RP Plus, and like who were your first influences, and then when did you find the evidence-based kind of space?
So I was lucky. I would say the first real big influence for me, outside of like, your classic Ronnie Coleman or whatever, was Lane Norton. He was a big influence because he was on bodybuilding.com, and he had like this vlog series called like A Day in the Life of a Natural Bodybuilder or something. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I just really liked his energy as well. And it was great. And obviously the thing that gravitated towards him, and the thing that gravitated also that I think is similar for you, is that he was really good at just saying like, hey, this is what the evidence says. This is what is being said about at the moment, and maybe the answer lies somewhere around here. So, because probably like a lot of people, it's like you get conflicting views. You've got people spouting like lots of extreme things, and you're like, oh, do I do this? Do I do that? And then there's this person saying like, oh, hey, this is what science says. This is what seems a very logical and balanced explanation. And it just really gravitated towards it. It gravitated me towards him. So he was probably my biggest influence, I would have said.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a good first influence to have. Interesting that you also found the bodybuilding forums. I found those a bit late. I say a bit late. I found those when I was, what age? I was like 21 when I started stumbling across that sort of information. So like a good 4 to 5 years of fumbling around with pretty poor information before that. When was it that you came across Lane Norton? How old were you then?
So it was probably 17, 18
Oh, nice.
maybe. Yeah, so great time. Yeah, really good time, because I can remember going to uni and I was watching him, and yeah, watching it. So it was great. Got very fond memories, definitely. And he's always, when someone, is kind of like your first influence, you've always got kind of like a bit of a soft spot for them. So I've always got a bit of a soft spot for Lane.
Funny, I wouldn't have thought Lane was your sort of character. I don't know why. He's quite different to you and the way you are. So I often, I guess, I think of people, get inspiration from people who are similar to them, but not always. You might like that he's different to you, or his style is very different to you. You certainly haven't tried to mirror it.
Well, dude, it's funny you say that, because because obviously things like, he psychs himself up quite a lot. I think I probably did used to do that, but it's not my natural, personality probably. So there was probably an element of impersonation for sure.
Yeah, I know. You'll be able to find on YouTube, actually, I impersonated the Hodge twins. Did you ever watch the Hodge twins? So they were kind of around the same time as Matt Ogus. And anyway, they were characters, put it that way. And I was trying to impersonate them in some videos where I was like, just not being myself. And it's so uncomfortable when you're that way. So it's nice that you never were. I had a question in mind, but it's completely gone out of my head right now. I don't know if there's anything that comes to your mind when talking about this.
No, I think the main thing is also, you know this as well, like I always struggle with people pleasing, and I think I was never fully comfortable being myself. I always wanted to fit in, and so I was probably always susceptible to trying to be a certain way, being very positive, overly positive and whatnot. And I think that probably also led me to do that a bit more. Whereas if I was to do it now, I'm very much more mature and I'm more comfortable being myself. Yeah. Always can be better, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is tough. I know a lot of the clients I work with, and probably the same for you, Mike, they're quite similar to us. I know a trait that a lot of my clients have is that they're open-minded, but also underconfident. So they're quite easily influenced. And so when they don't feel like they have enough experience or knowledge in an area, which is often, they defer out or they don't speak as confidently on something as they should. I work with a lot of coaches or people who are very intelligent themselves. I felt like that for the longest time. I often still do feel like that. But the more I've done this, I forget what it's. I've said this phrase on this podcast before or somewhere where it's. I think it came from actually Mark Manson in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, where it's something along the lines of, you don't get like self-confidence from shouting affirmations in the mirror. You get confidence from saying you're going to do something and then doing it, living and breathing it. So like I am confident as a bodybuilder and as a coach and in my methods and knowledge because I'm a fucking pro natural bodybuilder and I've been doing this for a decade and have tons of client results to kind of be like, hey, like there's proof in the pudding. So I think it's that some people don't have that lack of confidence even from the get-go. They're like super confident, almost too confident in what they know and think. But I think it's, that Dunning-Kruger effect, right? We've certainly kind of come over the other side and just realized how many smart people and how much we don't know.
Definitely. And it's always that middle ground, isn't it? It's not about being overconfident in your skill set, experience or knowledge and but then also not going too far the other way, which people like us do, where we don't speak up when we need to, when we have something relevant or valid to say. And it's always trying to find that sweet spot in the middle, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of, and I just think about online coaching and how you differentiate yourself is like, there's all the knowledge out there. It's your experience and your personality, and they're the things you kind of want to show up and give to people. And if you don't, then you're just, I don't know, hurting your own business and the people that you could potentially help, for sure.
And that's, do you know what? Maybe that's why, because you get a lot of talk about, is the coaching market saturated and stuff like that. And maybe that's why actually it might not ever be saturated potentially, because there's always a unique way in which you can probably brand or market yourself. And there's always probably someone a little bit like you that, someone is going to relate to. And I think, and I think probably the task is trying to find out what that is. It's probably trying to find out, like, right, who is this? Who am I? What is my energy, my message, my target? And then once you know that, you can really start to, target that area. And, I think maybe that's where, that's why we'll never be saturated.
Yeah, it was funny. I was just listening to a podcast by Jonathan Goodman. He was one of my favorite. Sorry, I think Ada was making some funny noises behind me. He was one of my early kind of not a business mentor, because I was never mentored by him, but business kind of information source was Jonathan Goodman with the PTDC, the Personal Training Development Center. It was. I did some articles for them back in the day. Anyway, so I was just listening to one of his podcasts because I refound it and I wanted something different to listen to. Also, side note, Spotify, I pay for premium and you get audiobooks, but you only get a certain number of hours to listen to. And apparently I had to listen to all my hours. So I had to wait 7 days or something for it to re-kick in. I was like, oh, that's so annoying. I was right in the middle of, I don't know what book, but some sort of book. Anyway, so I was looking for other podcasts to listen to. And on this podcast, he sometimes interviews people like as if it's like a one-off consultation. And he was consulting with someone saying like who they are and they're trying to grow their online business and so on and so forth. And they are very well connected in their like church and community there. And they were saying how their in-person clients are often religious too, and they stick around for a long time. But online clients, quite often they come in and they leave. And anyway, Jonathan was basically saying you should like put on your Instagram bio that you are like Christian and whatever your role is at the church, because then it differentiates you and you're going to find people that are also Christian, have the same values. And it doesn't mean you can't coach other people, but then they kind of already have that kind of know, like, and trust of you as an individual. So you're right in that there's so many different niches and people that you can help. And it's just a case of sometimes marketing yourself a bit differently to the rest. I think it's not necessarily that online coaching is saturated, it's that there's a lot of samey people who aren't trying to differentiate themselves. And I can even say to some extent we land in that. I don't think we're super duper niche. We probably could niche down further. I don't know if it's necessary. Bodybuilding is already quite niche as well, but I would still say in like the natural bodybuilding scene, like in terms of evidence-based coaches, there's quite a lot of people that are like that way. So then it is your personality or the way you interpret things, your own experience, these sort of things that start to differentiate you. But I know when I first started like 10 years ago, I could put out a post saying, hey, I have coaching slots available, and I'd get like inundated with people applying. I think because so many people didn't know how online coaching worked, and they were just, a lot of people were signing up to try and like be like, how do I potentially do this? Like, how do I set up spreadsheets and what variables do I have to track and all of this? Whereas now there's so much education, and I've coached people, then they become coaches, they coach people, and so on and so forth. It gets kind of passed down, that knowledge and skill set, that now loads of people are doing very similar things. So then it is like, to some degree, some spaces are a bit saturated, and it's trying to find your own space in that regard. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but there's just a thought that kind of came through my mind as we're discussing it.
No, do you know what? You said so many good things, and what came to mind just then is, again, like often they talk about how success in a field is 20% mechanics, is 80% psychology. And I think it's not necessarily like, hey, people can, write most people can write a training program for themselves. So again, you could take me, you could take most of our clients. It's like most of them understand training, but it's, other things that restrict their progress. And so again, it's about, how it's the art of coaching. So it's kind of like, right, it's not about the evidence base. Sure, most people will read the research paper and have an awareness of what the current literature says. But right, how do they apply it to the person in front of them to get the results that that particular person wants? And that's what people are investing in. And it reminds me of, I made a post a while ago about, it's not about cutting the wire, it's about knowing which wire to cut. And that's what people invest in, maybe a coach, or they pay money for. It's that knowledge of knowing, where to put the pieces.
Yeah, it's tricky. You can have all the knowledge in the world. In fact, with like ChatGPT at our fingertips, you can basically teach yourself anything. But man, there are some things that are going to be so hard to learn how to apply them to yourselves in your individual situation. And also, there's a lot of emotion involved with training and nutrition too, in terms of personal preferences, but also in terms of like some people are fat phobic or adipose phobic, as I used to call it, where they're kind of scared to go into a gaining phase, invest in that. And so you have to work with each person, put yourself in their shoes and individualize it to that extent. So I think a lot of people like to poo-poo individualization and be like, hey, we're all broadly the same. The big rocks are going to work for everyone. That's true. But there's very small nuances with each person that you need to understand how to get them to tick and invest into the process their best. Because, without that, it's like everyone's struggle is slightly different. We could probably bring up case studies from clients that we're working with and struggles that they've got that you're helping solve that are just, hey, it's the same fundamental physiology as like, hey, it's a male between these ages and they're this many years of training, but they're in such different environments, like people who have children, people with full-on jobs, people that are like students, like they come from a vast range of different backgrounds. And so you have to kind of apply these principles in a different way. And if people have struggled to get results through developing their own programs or following like an app or like an Excel spreadsheet program online, it's probably that part where they just haven't got that troubleshooting skill set and the ability to kind of buy into it. They maybe don't even trust themselves enough, where it's like, then they program hop. I know that's what happens to a lot of the people that come to us, where it's like, yeah, I see a new study comes out and it kind of makes me want to change my programming philosophy or whatever.
See the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. Additionally, you get access to our exclusive Revive Stronger member site, where you'll be able to watch over hundreds of hours worth of educational content. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
Yeah. But do you know what that is, again, where as coaches, as teachers, I think it's also understanding that that client's ability to change will take time, and I think all we can try to do is give them the tools or the direction, maybe highlight, hey, like you said, okay, right, this new study came out and I feel like program hopping, or I program hopped. And it's like, right, okay, we make them aware that, hey, we don't drop everything at the latest study. And, we stick with a certain level of confidence and we just slowly adjust based on how that changes. And But again, but what I guess the point I'm trying to make is it will take time, I think, for some clients to change. And I think we've just got to point them in the direction, give them the tools that are going to allow them to change, but then it's up to them to then take that and roll with it. And that might, for some person, they might be able to act on that and change in like a week. Other people, it might be like months, it might be years, but eventually like they change, and everyone kind of changes at their own rates. So yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is as well, like, yeah, everyone, we can't rush the process of those clients changing. Sometimes we've got to be patient with them, give it to them, and let it marinate and evolve.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that initial discussion where I said bodybuilding complementing your lifestyle, and it almost happens in the background, and your lifestyle is like complementary to bodybuilding. Like you get good sleep, you eat nutritional food, you like abide by your calorie intake, you train because you love it. All these sort of things are very fruitful for the rest of life, but also very fruitful for your bodybuilding. So I think for us and for myself, I'm always trying to get a client where it kind of can happen on the back burner as much as possible, where it's just day to day. They don't have to think about hitting their protein every day. They just do, like brushing their teeth. It kind of just becomes that. And then that allows it to be frictionless, so they can just like focus on being almost an athlete, and they can get on with the other stuff in their life. So it almost is very much complementary. And that's the challenge, is when you don't get to work with a client for very long, you might not be able to troubleshoot it to the extent where it becomes just complementary to their lifestyle. But because natural bodybuilding is such a slow burn and results take so long, the people that truly see the best results are the ones that just stick at it the longest, honestly. And so you have to find that, how can I make it complement the rest of my life? And that's always my kind of like, that's where I'm coming back to. So the clients I see with the best results are the ones that stick around the longest, because we found a solution to making it frictionless with the rest of their life. And that takes a bit of time at first, but once you're there, then you can focus on the little things. I just posted about don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And then Kasim commented on it, said, Coach Kasim, he was basically like, chasing perfection isn't necessarily well, he didn't say this. He said chasing perfection isn't a bad thing. In fact, it can be a really good thing. And I wasn't saying chasing perfection is bad. It is bad when it gets in the way of the bigger rocks. And if you haven't got the big rocks in place, you don't want to focus on perfection. You got to focus on getting the basics done. But once you have those basics done, like you do, Mike, now we can focus on what are the little things that we can adjust and move that actually are going to have, tiny, like 1% benefits. But because you've already got the 80% covered, you can focus on the 1%. Whereas a lot of people have no business focusing on the 1%. So they need to get that kind of fundamentals all in place. And yeah, unfortunately, people forget that. It's not sexy.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't know if it's relevant, but it's kind of the difference between, like you said, you can strive to be for the best, but not is you can try to be perfect, but it's not perfectionism. So it's not like, and total honesty, I haven't read the post yet, so you might have said this, but shame on me. But
I only just posted it like an hour ago or something, but Mike, I tagged you, so
I know I should have known. But yeah, perfectionism. I said it's like, perfection rarely begets perfect, only disappointment. And it's that where kind of like, right, you don't start something because you need the timing to be perfect, or you don't put something out there because it's not perfect. Like, how many times have you come across someone who, like, they've never competed because they're not big enough, they're not this or they're not that, and it's like, hey, just do, you will get better along the way. But also, like you said as well, is like, hey, it's not about the 1%ers. It's right, are the big rocks in place first, and then you've got business doing those other things. So yeah, I think there's lots of things in there. And I guess I would also reframe it from, I don't think, tell me what you think about this. I don't think perfect in any endeavor or thing is possible. I think because that it's like saying like something's a 10 out of 10. So you legitimately think that there is nothing that will ever or can be better than that. And it's like, oh, okay, I think that's a very hard thing to say. It's like, can you be a perfect coach? No, you probably can't be a perfect coach, because that means you will never ever get better.
Yeah, I think you said it right in terms of striving for perfection, but knowing that you're never going to get there, because how would you ever know? You don't get like a tick come on your, I don't know, screen when it's like, oh yeah, you were perfect this week. It's just like, no, you can have done everything in your power to strive for perfect, but there's no point ever trying to think that you are. And yeah, that's the issue. It's pie in the sky thinking completely. So I'm very much in agreement with you, Mike. As a tangent, or not tangent, but we haven't done like an update on us at all this episode yet, so we have a good half an hour left. How are things going with you? Have we've shifted body weights now, right? I'm weighing more than you, I'm pretty certain.
Yes. Do you know what? I am under 160 pounds as of today.
That
oh
is,
my gosh.
What's it called? What do the cool kids say when you weigh under a certain amount, like you are like better weight or whatever, like alpha and beta weight, like you're a small man, Mike, who's just going to be dominated in life. That's what it is.
Oh, I don't know. I'm curious now as to what that word is.
I've forgotten what it is. Yeah, I've forgotten what the phrase is. It's something like the people who are on social media more than me or have a better memory than me will know what I'm kind of talking about. It's like punching weight or whatever it is. You can be dominated in real life by a bigger man. But you're almost done dieting, right? I couldn't believe how long you've actually been dieting for, because I know it's like I'm into my 10th week of my meso. So that means actually, because I've been training ever since we got back from New York, and you've been dieting ever since. So you're actually in the 10th week of your diet now. So it's been quite a long time, but you've lost a significant amount of weight.
Yeah, because I don't know, I can't remember what this was in pounds, but I think I was upper 170s pounds. I was 80 kilos, and yeah, now gone under 160. So it's like 15 to 17 pounds. It's interesting actually, because it surprised me how fast it's gone in a way. Just like we've not changed nutrition at all. We've had 1 to 2 refeeds every week, low days, and then it's just like seemed to have gone whoosh. So in some senses it's been effortless, and if anything, like you've had to slow it down, like, because it was going really rapid, and it was like, right, we've got to put the brakes on things, quite rightly so. And so it's been an interesting experience from that, and relatively speaking, like effortless in the sense of like minimal hunger, energy's been good, performance has been good, so it's been a really smooth ride so far, which is interesting in a lot of ways.
I think it's a really good reminder for how diets should go during your off season. I think people think diets, they think hunger, they think low energy levels, they think stress, but in an off season, the goal of your off season is to grow as much muscle as possible. So the only diets that you do is to extend the runway that you've got to continue gaining, because inevitably fat comes along for the ride. It's the cost of doing business in terms of muscle gain. So you should only diet you should only diet as long and as aggressively during an off season, I think, where it can be done pretty frictionlessly. Because as soon as it starts getting into like my diet fatigue is high, performance is dropping, you're putting yourself into territory of muscle loss potentially, and also you're putting yourself in a position of having to recover from it. The only time you should have to like recover from a diet as a competitor, I think, someone who's healthy otherwise, is post-show, because that's when you're in territory of body fat that you have no long-term objective of being at. But otherwise, you should be in a zone of a sweet spot, as I call it, of body fat and body weight, where, hey, this is smooth, so long as you don't go too aggressive or for too long. So I'm really glad with how it's gone. Obviously, I slowed things down because I was like, hey, we're kind of speeding at this point. You're going a bit faster than we want. You're going to kind of crash and burn if we don't kind of slow it down here. And especially because I know you, Mike, where you're very good at just being like, yeah, I'm not hungry, even though your body is like screaming for food or something. I don't know. Sometimes you're just too good of a bodybuilder, and I have to like, Cliff talked about it, didn't he? Where he has some people he has to like push and whip them almost, and other people he has to like rein them in. And I've learned this well enough, especially our last prep, that I have to sometimes rein you in, which is totally fine. I prefer it that way generally.
I know. Do you know? And because we talked about this, I can't remember. It might not have been the New York trip. It might have been the Switzerland trip. trip, but we talked about a little bit about toxic positivity. And it was just how, for me, like, it's so ingrained in me to be positive and look on the bright side. But that can be a weakness, because I will ignore some of things that might not even necessarily be negative, but it's okay for things to be negative. But it kind of causes me to sometimes gloss over those things and not acknowledge them. And again, like, that can be a weakness, because like in this example, it's like, right, okay, maybe I do feel a bit hungry or whatever, but no, just carry on. Life is good. Life is roses and daisies. And then I don't report it to you. And then all of a sudden it accumulates, and then we're left with this big problem. So yeah, there is, again, I think it goes to highlight that any strength when overplayed is a weakness. And, just because it's negative doesn't mean it's negative necessarily. It's just like, right, okay, this is the situation. Let's talk about it and we'll manage it, because what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed.
So true. I think a lot of people, when they have a coach, they don't want to speak about the negatives. I don't know, they might have a slight niggle, but they're like, I want to stick to the plan, so I don't want to tell them that. Or I don't know, they might have even binged and they might not tell the coach, because it's like, I don't want to let the coach down. Or, man, I'm really hungry, but I'm in prep. Of course I'm meant to be really hungry. But you should still report these things, always open honesty. It can be a case of, hey, coach, I'm real hungry, but I'm ready to do what I need to do. That's perfect. Like, that's kind of the thing I want to hear. I don't just want to, like, you don't report you're hungry, maybe I don't think you're hungry. Like, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. And it relates to the toxic positivity, actually, because I know you said that you had sometimes you let little things go, but they build up, and then you suddenly are just like, it all comes out. And it's similar with hunger or whatever. Like, oh yeah, I'm a bit hungry. And it's just like, woof, maybe someone binges, or something negative often happens. So I think it is important, as you said, to recognize some of those like negative things. I don't know, you're in a relationship, could be Charlotte, she's doing something that annoys me every single day, and I just ignore. I'm just like, yeah, it's nothing. But over like a month, I'm like, just one day I just snap. I'm like, I'm done, I leave. It's not going anymore. It's like, I could have just told her once, she could have then amended for it, or tried to, and then, hey, no problem. So yeah, it's negative things aren't bad, they just are. They're exactly. Like, they're just there. They're part of life, right?
Exactly. And do you know what? I listened to something interesting, which is like, it's not sometimes attaching an emotion to it. So it's like, okay, there's this thing that's happened, but it's not it's not necessarily attaching an emotion to it. It is what it is. And so, like, is it something, it might be something that we just need to monitor, or it might be something that we need to act on. But again, it's not necessarily like this traumatic thing. It's like, right, this has happened, this is how we're going to deal with it, kind of thing. Yeah,
no, for sure. So I'm excited for the next time that you do decide to obviously take the stage, which I think 2027 is like the goal, because I think we're going to be way better armed to kind of execute things, and also have a better understanding of your physique and your look, and really, really protecting that on all costs of that kind of shape and symmetry. Even though you have good shape and symmetry, it can still get hurt by being flat and potentially having lost muscle. And like, same with me, like, I'm already excited about the next time, because I'm like, I just have such a better understanding of where the right look and balance was for me, and hopefully for both of us, and I'm sure it will be, because we have more muscle, we have that little bit of extra condition that we can earn, because we're now that much bigger, and so the muscle's just going to kind of push against the skin, and we're going to have those little crevices where we didn't previously, which is definitely exciting. I know you haven't taken any physique shots or anything like that, but I haven't seen you. I've seen you at the start. Obviously, we took photos and measurements or what have you, and now we're going to get some new ones soon. I'm excited to see how they're looking. How are you feeling about how things are looking? Because I guess you've seen yourself.
Not a lot. Do you know what? Actually, I haven't been consciously looking at myself too much, and because it's been winter at the moment, and as probably people have seen from Instagram, I'm quite covered up when I train, not through
beanie on.
Yeah, literally beanie on, hoodie up, not through intention, but just because it's the fact that it's bloody cold, and I train in like a warehouse gym, so it's like not in the morning, it's not the warmest of places. But so I haven't really properly, the first time I probably got to look at myself a little bit was when I went to Rob's a couple of weeks ago. And he obviously had, like, you know, he's got a great gym and he's got great lighting in his gym. And that was the first time. And I'm always sometimes surprised that I'm leaner than I think I am, which is, again, quite interesting. Like I sometimes, I don't know, if I'm walking around, I think, oh, I'm probably not that lean right now. And then I look at myself and go, oh, actually, I look better than I think I do. So that was quite nice. But we're taking progress pictures this weekend. So that'll be really cool. Really excited. Yeah, and just to kind of come to a point you're mentioning about how you're always learning about yourself, you know, along the way. And this is what I love about natural bodybuilding. It's like we're always getting better in some way. And it's like we're constantly evolving and constantly getting better because, you know, whether that's putting on muscle, whatever, we're just learning every time. Like from the competitions, it might be that a show went poorly, but we learn from that and we move forwards. And it's like, yeah, we're just getting to that final form each time. And it's like, this is so good. And then we're just loving the process along the way because bodybuilding is our lifestyle or vice versa. And it's like, hey, it's all great.
It's all wins.
It's
for sure.
all wins.
But yeah, when you get it to complement everything, it's a really, really good thing. And I think it's probably good that you haven't been body checking too much. I think that's another good sign that you have a healthy relationship like with your physique. And actually, you'll have lost basically 10% of your body weight, so significant amount. And I expect there's going to be like the before and after is going to be looking pretty cool. So I'm definitely excited to see how you're looking. And it's funny mentioning the point of like you're leaner than you think you are. That always happens to me. Like whenever I pose, especially under decent lighting, like I recently did a physique update over on Instagram, and I was like, what the, like, I actually look, I could step on stage and not look out of place still. It's like, this is kind of wild to me. But also it's such a reminder that there's so much fat in so many places that it might not even visually, you certainly can't pick it up via camera. And I don't know how much the judges can pick it up fully. Like some of the stuff like getting striated triceps or feathered triceps, sorry. Really cool. I can get both my triceps feathered and they look gnarly in photos, whatever. But if I have a bit more size, say on my delts, and I have slightly less feathered triceps, and it's actually just, I'm higher in body fat, and that's the difference. I think it could be argued it's worth having that little bit of cap on the delts there, and obviously you can't control where this fat kind of distributes and everything like this, but yeah, it's an interesting realization for me because of how much better I feel like I'm looking shape and muscularity wise with a bit more fat on me. And that's what it is. The majority of weight I've gained is fat. Like it's not muscle mass as much as I wish it was, but I still have like striations across my chest. They're just not as sharp as they normally would be. My waist isn't quite as small because I know I've gone up a belt buckle on my like weightlifting belt. So I know I've gained body fat for sure. And like my legs aren't as diced as they were, but it's like for the amount of like, yeah, it's kind of size and fullness and everything that I lost during the last parts of prep. Yeah, it's interesting to see it come back, and it's given me confidence too, where I'm like, oh man, I actually look like I lift and I have decent muscularity now. So yeah, I'm excited to continue. I'm in a bit of a, not no man's land, but I'm in a bit of a tricky time because as I've said, I thought I'd need to get up to about 180 pounds to start feeling like very normal. I can say for sure, my energy levels, my, what's it called? My performance in the gym, I literally hit a PR today, which I was like, what the hell? I've actually hit an all-time PR on belt squats. Did not expect that. And my sleep and things like this, they're all in a really good place. But I know my testosterone, if I was to do measures, I would say my testosterone might be out of the normal range or it would be very low. And I know I have room to improve on that just based off my libido. And then I am still having to manipulate my diet in a way that is more than typical in off season. So I am having to like still fast in the morning. I'm still mostly like, I'm not having, it's like, it's a good diet, don't get me wrong, but I would have like bowls of cereal comfortably in an off season when I'm at a really good like sweet spot. So I know I'm still, there's some elements that aren't quite recovered. So I'm a bit of a like, I kind of want to slow down the rate of gain, but not so much that I don't promote the best physiological state to gain muscle. And that's what I fundamentally care about, is being in the position to gain is muscle as fruitfully as possible. I don't want to hold on to shreds for the sake of shreds, but I also don't want to gain body fat just because I think it would ameliorate some of this hunger. It's not like the hunger's really stressful. It's not like I have extreme food focus. Nothing like the end of prep, for example, but it's still not quite my typical like sweet spot levels just yet. So I'm kind of like, some of those negatives are worth it given my training's going so well. And that's like whenever I think about bodybuilders in their off season, it's like training is the guiding like star that you should look towards. If that's going well, everything else must be in a pretty good spot. And I need to actually look through some of my numbers of see where else they are, because I know my RDL, I'm pretty much, I think I'd hit a PR if I had it first in my session, which I did during my off season, whereas I have it last and I'm basically back at off season numbers. So I'm like, there's some signs of being in a really good spot. I just don't want to be ignorant to, I don't want to cost myself like unnecessary extension of being in a poor physiological state when I don't need to, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm kind of navigating it a bit like at the moment. Not no man's land, but just a transition.
Would you say that though, those markers in terms of, libido, energy, they are kind of trending up though? Or do they feel like they're just holding and they're not improving?
They definitely were trending up, and now they're more so holding. Because it's also interesting because I'm looking at my body weight and I gained quite rapidly post-Christmas, but then it's kind of slowed a bit. Also, it hasn't. I thought I was near enough maintenance, but then I just continued to gain. So I think it's my hunger and my food focus and those sort of bits are making me feel like I'm at a maintenance intake, but I'm not. I'm still in a surplus. So yeah, they're just recovering a bit slower than maybe I ideally want. But again, at the moment, if I keep going the way I'm going, I'm going to be in a surplus for the whole year and still be at, like, that'll have me at probably about 190 pounds by the end of the year, slightly over. And like, that's great. And if I can be a bit more conservative now and ensure that I don't have to put myself into any sort of diet, I think it's probably worth it at this point. I don't know if it's worth it for everyone. I don't know if I'm going to look back at this time and be like, Steve, you should have just allowed yourself to eat a bit more. I don't know, but I'm happy enough that training's in a good spot to be here, if that makes sense. So yeah, when I think about the recovery diet and our recommendations aligning with 3DMJ 5 to 10% over stage weight, like I am very much towards that 5% at the moment. Depending on what stage weight you use, because if you use my world stage weight, I was only 166 pounds. So I'm definitely within the 5 to 10% if we take that. But yeah, I think we both agreed that was a bit of a skewed low weight. Anyway, my ramble.
I guess, yeah, it's interesting because I think, like you said, the main thing is your training performance and your training numbers. If you feel, I guess, that everything around that is not to the detriment of how you're feeling and how life is, then you can kind of continue with your current plan. But if it's like what you said about how it's different for different people. Maybe some people just couldn't cope with it and they need that extra food and they need to gain faster because for them, they just need that. But for you, if it's sustainable right now and it's not taking away from your overall happiness in life, then hey, we can just continue down this route until, something does need to change if it does.
That's what I mean. It feels mostly like it's coming from just a greed perspective. Like, and I want to just lean into that. Like, I want to have that extra portion of bread. I want to have another slice of bread. Like, I want to have bigger portions through the day or whatever. I want to have a breakfast first thing and still have enough calories spread through the day to feel like I'm well fed. But like, in terms of energy, performance in the gym, like I'm all good. And I can still allow for like, and I want to have, for example, I haven't had a Domino's. Can you believe this? I haven't had a Domino's since stepping off stage. Charlotte, for one, Charlotte's not that into Domino's because when she wasn't out well, she kind of had it and didn't enjoy it, and it psychologically isn't working with her. But anyway, I'm okay with it because I'm like, I know the Domino's I get is 1,300 calories or something, there or thereabouts. And I just can't at the moment justify that many calories towards something that palatable. So on like a Friday when I'm already having other meals, but I can still have a takeaway of some sort. It's just not maybe what I want. I can't have as much. It could be like a Wagamama's, or we had a Indian the other day and I had, what did I have? Oh man, I was so disappointed. I had what they call king prawns, 3 king prawns, and it cost so much money. Damn, it's so expensive. Yeah, just 3 flipping king prawns. Anyway,
did you open it up and you go like, what the hell?
I was just like, these tandoori king prawns, because it was like, this is going to be low fat, high protein, perfect. They were very tasty, but fucking 3. And then I had I would have wanted like a garlic naan or something, right? And maybe something else. But I just had like I think it's called chapati, like they're kind of like pita bread type things. So, hey, it was still tasty. It was nice. I managed to enjoy it. But it's like my greed wants me to have more. Or I went home this past weekend. My sister made a vegan lasagna, and I kind of guesstimated that. I still had that. I still enjoyed it. It didn't like, I maybe would have liked. She actually gave me a portion. She was like, do you want the big one or the small portion? I was like, I'll have the smaller portion, because it just, at the moment, that's where I'm at. My greed wants me to have the bigger one. So I think it's mostly like a bit of a greed thing for me. And I think for some people, that greed thing is enough of a detriment to their life and lifestyle that they don't want to do it. But at the moment, for me, I'm like, hey, I can take that hit because I'm in control of my nutrition. Charlotte understands. So I know eventually I'll be able to be in a position where I won't have this. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of navigating it a little bit differently. And yeah, who knows if it's better, but it could theoretically buy me a larger runway of growth. And so that's pretty cool. And I come back to training and I'm still loving it. I'm very beat up at the moment. I will admit, like, I feel tired. And you know, when you're like, I need my sleep. I need it to be good, because if I have a poor night's sleep, especially if it's a leg day, I'm going to be screwed. But I'm like, legs today was good, and I'm still functioning right now with you. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how it's going so far, and I'm hoping my ability to stop the greed and that kind of monkey brain kicking in to push me to gain a bit faster will pay off. And it's a small thing. We come back to those 1%, and like, I'm not a genetic freak. I need everything in my favor to make this off season as productive as possible. So maybe it's one thing I can have.
Yeah, I think it's really hard, because I think sometimes we can only join the dots looking back. And so you'll only know at the end of the year or whenever that time comes. But yeah, it's just one of those tricky things, I think. But like you said, I think if you're content now, if training's in a good place, then you know that, hey, you're doing everything to the best of your ability, and we will learn, we will know later down the line, and then go from there, really.
Hindsight's 2020. That's what they say, isn't it?
Exactly. I always think of Steve Jobs, because he said something like a quote about like, you can only connect the dots looking backwards or something. So I don't know why, but I always think of Steve Jobs. But yeah, hindsight. I use that with patients a lot, actually. And I always think of you because you say that a lot as well. I do have Steve, hindsight's 2020.
I have a few sayings, don't I? I know that. Give yourself grace is one that I've picked up recently. I don't even know where I got that term from. It's like an American thing, I think, grace. But I did like it where I was hearing it. I don't know. I think it was on a TV show, and it was like a relationship show or something. And they were like, give yourself grace. And I was like, oh, I like that. I'm going to use that with him when I'm coaching people and they're going through a hard time or whatever.
And this is so you're saying as well, many roads to Rome.
Yeah, I know. That's I say that too much. Anything else on your end, Mike? I know we had a small anime section last time. Where are you now with Naruto? You're a one-man anime, aren't you? I remember.
I am a one-man anime at the moment, but I'm loving it so much. So right, got to do this justice because I watched it last night. Oh, sorry. So you know how in Naruto you've got the guy. So do you know Asuma?
Mm-hmm.
He's dead.
Okay.
So I'm like basically there. So Asuma's died.
Oh, you have a juicy bit coming up.
And I've got, so also they've killed the 2 Akatsuki people who killed Asuma. So they're dead.
So you've seen this. Okay, you saw the really like... What's his name? The guy that's like so laissez-faire and just like smokes cigarettes.
Shikamaru.
Yeah. So you saw him take his revenge.
Yes.
That's one of my like best scenes within Naruto as a whole. I loved it. I was just like, so badass.
Yeah. It's like, I don't believe in your god. I believe in the will of fire. And it's like,
yes. Okay, because he drops a cigarette and that's what does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
And it's just how he like planned everything. Like he lit in, he's like, what? Planned it all? Oh, so good. Yeah, and I'm just in the bit now where, so Naruto's also got his wind style Rasen Shuriken.
Okay.
And he's also developed a joint jutsu with the toad. And yeah, and then so we're there. It's brilliant. And by the way, so I just want to point out, this is a small tangent, but you are wearing the same Natty News hoodie as you did the last time we recorded the improvement season, by the way.
Yeah, I had a feeling I was wearing this last time. And I also allowed my bald head come out last time as well, which I thought I did it with Physqiue the first time last couple of weeks ago. But anyway.
There you go. But also the thing that brought me onto that little comment was because you can't see it.
I have that t-shirt.
Do you?
But not in, that's like in like a grey.
It's
colour.
like a grey, mottled grey or something.
Yeah, mine's black, but it doesn't fit me very well, so I haven't really worn it. Charlotte got it for me, but I almost sent you it. There was a reel that basically, he just went over the scene with Rock Lee and Gaara, and when they're fighting, and he just like did commentary over it, and he made it somehow even better than it was in real time. Like it was, I almost sent it to you, but I was like, oh, it's a long reel to watch. It was very good. So yeah, it's so 2 things. One is we should be going to Anime Con.
Yes.
So if anyone's listening and going in February towards the end, we'll probably
25th?
be there. I think it was like the 23rd, 21st through 23rd or something, maybe. I was just looking into like reviews and stuff today about it. It looks like it's mostly a like market with stalls and people selling stuff, but I think it'll be nice to be there and whatever. And then I even looked on Amazon for Saitama One Punch Man cosplay outfits because I was like, I can go as one. Do you know One Punch Man?
I know of it, but I don't know it very well.
He's bald, like, anyway. I was like, I could go as this guy. It'd be hilarious. Anyway, then they've actually got in London a orchestra playing the songs from Demon Slayer in London sometime this year. I can't remember when it is, but if it was Attack on Titan, I'd be going for sure, potentially on my own because the music's that good. But you haven't watched Demon Slayer yet, but if there's enough time between now and it, you might watch it and you may be interested. So I'll send you what I found because otherwise, I don't know who else I'd go with.
I've seen pictures of Demon Slayer, like the characters of Demon Slayer, and it looks awesome. Like their characters look sick. But I've just not like started watching it. So it's like all of these names, but because I haven't watched any of them, I can't put context to how good it is.
The animation is amazing. I really enjoyed the first series. It might be my favorite series out of all of them. And I think it's a good one. It's definitely up there in terms of how good it is, but the animation is just so good and the music is good. So anyway, I'll send you the details of the orchestra like playing it and you can see if you're how far away it is and whether or not you can invest enough into the anime to be interested to go.
Yeah, I'm definitely game for it. I'll see what happens. I'll see what I think. But you're still watching Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah, very slowly. So only because of an evening, I make my dinner and then I basically end up just sitting downstairs and eating. I do this because Charlotte has lost her key, so I have to let her in. So I stay downstairs and eat in the kitchen, so it's easy for me to go. So I end up just like listening to a podcast on my phone or something. And it's been quite nice to do that and not have like screens and stuff, although it's my phone. But anyway, I've just been doing that. And then me and Charlotte are watching, you probably heard of it, Traitors.
No, I
BBC
haven't.
show. A lot of the listeners who are UK based, I think, will know Traitors. It's like a kind of a game show. It's really cool. It's like quite popular now. But yeah, so we're watching Traitors, and then of course Love Island's on at the moment, so we're watching Love Island. So that kind of takes an evening of like an hour and a half where I get to do that. So then I only really get to watch Hunter x Hunter on the weekend, but I normally get through like 5 episodes. I'm on the final arc of the whole anime, so I've got through most of it so far, and yeah, I do love it. Although the downside is I quite often have it on the side as I'm working because I've already seen it and I have it dubbed, not subbed. I don't quite take it in, but I have already seen it, so it's not such a big deal. So I quite enjoy doing it that way.
Yeah, it's not. I think when you've watched it before, you don't feel like you don't have to pay attention to it as in depth, do you?
Yeah. But on that note, we're over an hour now, so we have a little bit of an anime subsection of talk. That's our niche, right? Anime lovers.
Yeah, I think we should keep this in. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But on that note, Mike, where can people catch you if they're not already following you?
If you're not already following you, I will forgive you. I won't say shame on you, but follow me. No, I'm at Mike Revive Stronger. I'm trying to do a bit more mix, so there are physio slants to my posts, so that hopefully that will be helpful for people. But at Mike Revive Stronger, follow me. It'll be great to see you and interact.
Awesome. So guys, thank you as always for listening. As I said, I very well frequently ask for questions for these segments, so we have some topics to go by and we can do some Q&A, because I actually really enjoyed doing those when me and Pascal used to do them. So you need to come join me in the hyperbolic time chamber, because I think that's where I'll probably ask and request for questions. But otherwise, we'll catch you next time. Cheers as always.
See you later, guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger